Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a new rate. Like I've done in the past, rate the super as well as rate the costume. In this edition, it is going to be rate the character. And I look at a character and I rate him from 1 to 10 score. And it's based on how much I genuinely enjoy the character, as well as maybe also including elements such as how much I like the design of the character, but it's pretty much predominantly going to come down to how much I actually enjoy the character. With that said, I'm going to be rating Capcom's side and then rating the Marvel side. But like I said, this will be on a scale of 1 to 10. Also in the future, I'm going to be doing a two-part special on Rate the Super. In part 1, we'll be strictly rating the Super on the Marvel side of things. In part 2, I will be rating the Super on the Capcom side of things. So with that said, first up, of total we have 36 characters. And first to rate on the Capcom side of things is Arthur. Of course, specifically Arthur, obviously, best well known for being from games like Ghosts and Goblins. And he is a character that I never really care much about playing with. Honestly, I like him maybe just a dash more in this game than in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. But with that said, on a score of 1 to 10, personally, how much I like Arthur, I give Arthur a 4 out of 10. Which is still okay. He's not the worst character in the game, at least as far as I'm concerned.
Arthur! Sir Arthur, at thy service.
But nevertheless, he's okay. He's not great overall gameplay-wise, I don't care too much. But he's not the worst I've ever played. Next up, we're looking at somebody else, also from the series.
Firebrand!
Though specifically, I'll be honest, Firebrand, of course, best well known obviously from the game Demon's Crest. If you haven't played Demon's Crest, I highly recommend checking it out. It's an all-time classic from Capcom. But with that said, Firebrand, I actually do genuinely like Firebrand more from this game over his model, but I think specifically one I like the alternate costume or skin a lot more. He's just more enjoyable to look at, but gameplay-wise, he's actually quite a bit of fun. He sadly does not have great supers. That's one area where sadly Firebrand fails, but in general, as time has gone on, I've come to actually appreciate Firebrand a lot more. From 1 to 10, how much I actually enjoy his gameplay, I give Firebrand, honestly, a 6.5 out of 10. I genuinely like him a lot more than I do Arthur. Next up, looking at better well known from obviously the Final Fight series.
Hagar! The Fighting Mayor! That's me!
Now with that said, I'll be honest, with Hagar, I honestly don't mind him. As time has gone on, I do kind of like his gameplay a little bit more. It's not the greatest, he's not the best grappler in the game, but I do think Hagar is actually still not bad. He's pretty solid overall. Enjoyment-wise, I put him sort of in the middle, around the same range as, honestly, probably Firebrand. I'd give Hagar probably a 6.5 out of 10 as well. I think overall he's a pretty decent down the middle on the Capcom side of things. And if you like characters with wrestling moves and stuff, or old school Final Fight fan, honestly, he's definitely not one of the worst Capcom characters in the game to play as. He's more fun than definitely several others. Speaking of, next up, looking at definitely one of the less popular, of course, versions of the character, and that being Spencer. Now, personally, for me, gameplay-wise, I think Spencer is very much straight down the middle of the road overall. I don't think he's, again, the worst character in the game to play as. I actually dislike Arthur more than I do Spencer, gameplay-wise. Spencer does not have great supers, that's one bad thing, but I think one of his supers is okay. Like his main, super punch attack. And he does, I do like his grappling ability from across the screen, but overall, I'm going to give Spencer probably a 5 out of 10 straight down. Next up, other probably less popular characters, of course, thanks to becoming a big name, I would say Capcom character, mostly thanks to, of course, the Dead Rising series, is where Frank West got his start. Now, for me, I mostly like him
Let me out there, boss.
for this specific, stupid, dumb costume, but I appreciate the head nod. As a longtime fan of the Mega Man series, I do appreciate it and the reference. Also, gameplay-wise, Frank West is not the worst, honestly. He does have some actually fun, combo strings you can do and stuff. He can be actually not that bad gameplay-wise. Personally, I put, again, probably down the middle. I give Frank West also a 5 out of 10, just like Spencer. Next up, somebody I do actually enjoy a decent amount in the game. Not my overall favorite Capcom character.
Chris!
This is Chris, ready to move out.
I do like Chris Redfield in the game. I enjoyed him, honestly, as well in also Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I probably like him equally as much to Wesker from that game. But overall in the game, I give him, honestly, a bit higher than average compared to some of the other characters. Now keep in mind, as if you're wanting more to keep your distance from across the screen, definitely Chris is one of the better characters for long range. But he actually is not bad even mid-range attacks and stuff. I actually enjoy him quite a bit. Honestly, overall, I give Chris Redfield a 7 out of 10. He's not bad at all. Not the best, but he's not the worst. Next up, another character that, of course, I have a deep love for.
Zero.
I'll show no mercy.
Honestly, I give Zero in the game. I think I like Zero a little bit more in Ultimate Marvel 3. But overall, in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, I'm gonna have to give, honestly, Zero a 6.5 out of 10. He's still not bad, he's still pretty decent overall, and he's definitely fun to play with specific teams. Specifically, I like using him with Sigma or X, for obvious reasons. With that said, next up, speaking of,
X.
Starting the mission. Let's go!
I personally, at first, only liked this costume or design of X. As time has gone, this one's really grown on me, and I like the, cyber scarf is a nice touch, and a real nice reference to the Mega Man games. Specifically reminds me a bit of one of his looks in Mega Man X3. But with that said, in general, X, I think, is a lot of fun in the game, and it was nice, and I ended up genuinely liking X more than Zero in the game for the most part. He is definitely one of my more favorite Capcom characters in the game to play as. Personally, I give X in this game probably a 7.5 out of 10. I really like X. Gameplay-wise, I think his alternate costumes are both great. In general, his gameplay is really fun. I wouldn't quite have him probably as high as the original classic Mega Man from, of course, Marvel vs. Capcom 1, and, well, I actually probably like X more than, maybe, than Mega Man from Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Just barely. But with that said, yeah, 7.5 out of 10. Next up for me, admittedly, all bias is all heck, because he is my favorite villain in the Mega Man franchise.
Sigma.
All is according to plan.
To me, this is his most iconic look, but I love his alternate costume here, which is a nice harken back to other Mega Man games. But still, you can't beat the classic green costume of Sigma. Sigma is arguably not only my favorite Mega Man villain of all time, he is probably in my top 3 favorite Capcom villains of all time. I cannot explain how much I love this character. I think also the voice actor was a perfect choice. He is arguably, I think, about the best voice actor in the game. At least for, in my opinion, just about. And along with his gameplay is amazing and fun. I'm gonna be honest, when push comes to shove, he's probably my favorite Capcom character in the game overall playing as. He's just a lot of fun. For me, I give Sigma a 9.5 out of 10, just shy of a perfect 10 out of 10 score. But I love Sigma to death. He's just a lot of fun, and I still play with him multiple times. Probably when I play this game, I would say 50% of the time, I always have a team involving Sigma or, well, pretty much I would say 80% of the time, I'm either in one of my teams either has Sigma or Thanos, being pretty much my favorite tag team. But yeah, I love Sigma. Next up, from the Street Fighter side of things, Ryu is the first up one.
Ryu, I shall fight.
Game-wise, he looks, of course, great in the game. And I actually like this battle damage version of Ryu personally a lot. As well as I love this special skin Dark Hado Evil Ryu. Overall, I give Ryu, gameplay wise in the game, he gets a 7.5 out of 10 for me. I think he's still quite a bit of fun. I will be honest, I do like ChunLi just a little bit more.
Reporting for battle.
And personally, this is one of my favorite variant colors of her costume. Though admittedly, I also like, surprisingly, this one quite a bit. But for me, Chun is arguably, overall, I would say, gameplay-wise, one of my favorite female characters in the game. I just genuinely have a lot of fun with her. It's probably, arguably, one of the best games, I think, for her. And for me personally, I give Chun in this game an 8 out of 10. She is a lot of fun to use in the game. Next up, let's talk about a character that I think overwhelmingly most people, of course, for the most part, love.
Dante.
Let's rock, baby!
Now, for me personally, I'll be honest, gameplay-wise, I've never been the biggest Dante fan. I actually don't mind Dante as much in this game as in Marvel 3. I would say overall, honestly, I give Dante the same as I gave Ryu. I give Dante a 7.5 out of 10. He's not my favorite, but he is still probably one of my top 10 favorite Capcom characters in the game. But I feel he's somewhat overrated. Next up, obviously, all-time classic character in the series. For me, I would say my favorite game to play with Strider is probably Marvel vs. Capcom 1. It's my personal favorite in the series to use him in. Then I would actually probably say this game. I'm not the biggest fan of Strider, I'll be honest, though he is one of my favorite ninjas. Gameplay-wise, at least in this game specifically, I give Strider Hiryu probably a 7 out of 10. Next up, of course, many people's probably favorite Wafu character,
Morrigan.
You have great taste.
Well, thanks, I think. But with that said, when it comes to Morrigan, Miss Lady Darkstalker, for me, I actually enjoyed her more probably in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, as well as Marvel vs. Capcom 1. I would probably, of the 4 Marvel vs. Capcom games, arguably, this is probably 3rd place for me of games I like her in. She's not bad, but still, honestly, overall, I have to give Morrigan probably a 6.5 out of 10. She's not bad by any means, but I've definitely had more fun with other characters. Speaking of...
Jedda. I am the beginning and the end.
For me, especially Techno Jedda, I'll be honest, I'm biased as all heck. When it comes to characters, of course, my favorite Darkstalker character is and will always be, obviously, Dmitry Maximov. But for me, Jedda has always been one of my personal favorite characters, and I love he finally got representation in this game. For me, I give Jedda probably gameplay-wise an 8 out of 10. I think he's actually quite a bit of fun. He's one of my personal favorite Capcom characters in this game easily. Like I said, mainly biased, but I do think his gameplay is a lot of fun. And he has some pretty good supers, and I love the fact that they're very loyal to Vampire Savior. Speaking of, next up, let's look at probably my second favorite Capcom character in this game to play as. Maybe somewhat controversial.
Nemesis.
But between one loving the classic RE3 skin, along with, of course, the Mr. X outfit from RE2, admittedly, I love Nemesis a lot. I liked him a lot in Marvel 3. I'm not sure what overall I would give him in Marvel 3, but being more fresh in my mind with Marvel Infinite, I give Nemesis a 9 out of 10. I love him in this game, and I don't see that changing. He's easily my top 10 favorite characters on the roster, if not top 5. So yeah, he's in second place, right behind Jedda is or right behind Sigma is my favorite Capcom character in the game. Next up, we have just one more to go, and of course, the DLC.
Monster
And
Hunter.
the quest begins.
For me, I give Monster Hunter, I think it's quite good. Gameplay-wise, I would say put Monster Hunter as my number... I would actually put her just barely above Chun as probably my favorite female Capcom character in this game, gameplay-wise. For me, I give Monster Hunter an 8.5 out of 10. On the Marvel side of things, coming in first, looking at Rocket. For me, Rocket is pretty much just about my least favorite character in the game, gameplay-wise. He's not, I still think he's just a dash better, or at least I like his super more in this game than in Marvel 3. But for me, I give Rocket Raccoon a 3 out of 10. I'm sorry, Guardian fans. I'm just not a big fan of Rocket in this game. Speaking of, next, looking at a character I feel is somewhat more or less straight. Still not a big
Captain
fan
Marvel.
of.
Reporting for duty.
Though arguably, in my opinion, this is her best costume. But for me, Captain Marvel gets a 4 out of 10. She's just barely above Rocket for me. And now a character a lot of people say is the worst in the game.
Black Widow.
Excellent choice.
For me, I give Black Widow a 4.5 out of 10. I still think she's actually a bit better than Captain Marvel or Rocket, and I like some of her like grappler type abilities a bit more. She's definitely good in close range, hand to hand in the game. I'll definitely give her points for that. The only problem is her supers suck. Next up, looking at arguably probably one of the more busted characters in the game, mostly in speed.
Spider-Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man at your service.
Personally, for me, I give Spider-Man this game pretty much straight down the middle of the road. I give Spider-Man a 5 out of 10. I think I like Spider-Man the most in Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter or Marvel vs. Capcom 1, in all honesty. Next up, going to Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange.
I shall bring forth imagination into reality.
Okay, sure. But with that said, Doctor Strange, sadly, is a little below Spider-Man. In general, I'm just not a big fan of his gameplay style. His supers aren't that bad for the most part, but overall, just in sheer enjoyment of gameplay-wise, I have to give Doctor Strange a 4.5 out of 10. Now, surprisingly, of characters I like quite a bit, probably more than a lot of people. Not sure.
Hawkeye.
I never miss. Count on it.
But for me, I personally have to give Hawkeye in this game, genuinely, I give him a 7.5 out of 10. I genuinely actually like Hawkeye quite a bit. He's definitely probably one of my top 10 favorite Marvel characters in this game overall enjoyment-wise. I don't know why a lot of people hate on the character. I personally enjoy him. He's also good for long range, which is a very big positive. Now, of characters, I understand why he gets so much
Ghost
love.
Rider.
It's judgment time.
Admittedly cool and definitely an amazing costume. For me, though, gameplay-wise, I have to give Ghost Rider a little bit above down the road. Mostly for the fact I do like, specifically, his, of course, super involving his motorcycle. For the most part, I give Ghost Rider a 6 out of 10. Next up, just barely above him,
Nova.
Nova Prime, reporting for duty.
look-wise, Nova definitely is higher up. For me, though, gameplay-wise, I personally give Nova probably a 6.5 out of 10.
Thor.
Thor Odinson joins the fray.
Thor is again a bit more down towards the middle for me personally. For me, I give Thor probably, I'm gonna have to give him a 6 out of 10. Next up, unfortunately, having to give the same overall score, though
Black
design-wise,
Panther. For battle.
arguably one of probably the top 5 best designs in the game. But gameplay-wise, Black Panther I have warmed up a little. At one time, I probably would have given Black Panther between a 3, 3.5 at one time. Now, honestly, I give Black Panther a 6 out of 10. I've warmed up to him a little bit over time. I definitely like him more now than I used to since I've given him more of a chance. But still, he gets just a little bit above, down the middle. Next up for me, another character I'd say I genuinely have enjoyed more than a lot of people in this game.
Captain America.
Reporting for duty.
Personally, I give Captain America probably a 7.5 out of 10. He is arguably in my top 10 favorite Marvel characters in the game to play as. He also has some of the better, I think, supers in the game. His level 3 is easily one of the best level 3s in the game. Speaking of next, when it comes to grappler characters,
Hulk.
Don't make Hulk angry.
but I love Nora Hulk costume admittedly, but gameplay-wise, I actually have enjoyed probably Hulk a bit more in this game than I have. It's probably since Marvel 1, though he's a nightmare to fight against higher level in Marvel 1. But gameplay-wise, I give Hulk probably, honestly, a 7 out of 10. He's actually, I enjoyed him more than several of the other Marvel characters, which I did not expect at all. Next, a character I was kind of disappointed was not higher for me.
Iron Man.
I am Iron Man.
Yes, I know you are. But with that said, for me personally, I give Iron Man the same score as I gave Hulk. I give Iron Man, honestly, a 7 out of 10. He's not bad. He's not the most fun robot in the game, unfortunately, but he's still not bad, by any means. Next up, one that kind of surprises me a little.
Ultron, now destroy all organics.
For me personally, I have to give Ultron gameplay-wise just a little bit above Iron Man. I gave Iron Man a 7 out of 10. I give Ultron a 7.5 out of 10. I'm genuinely surprised. I ended up enjoying him a lot more than I honestly thought I was going to. So I appreciate that. And the fact the actual man a little bit more fun. And I like the voice actor as well, doing Iron Man as well as the voice actor for Ultron. Next up, of characters, I have to say, I am surprised at how much I did enjoy in the game.
Dormammu, all is mine.
And of course, his Dark Khan skin. But no, honestly, when it comes down to it, I actually genuinely love Dormammu. I like Dormammu quite a bit in Marvel 3 as well. I don't know why a lot of people hated him, probably because he was a nightmare to fight against. But I do enjoy him, especially enjoy him quite a bit in this game. Personally, I give Dormammu an 8.5 out of 10. He's one of my top 5 favorite Marvel characters in the game to play as. Speaking of other characters I really enjoyed, arguably my favorite female character to play as on the Marvel side.
Gamora.
Itching for a fight.
I absolutely love Gamora in this game. She's a blast to play with, and she ended up becoming my favorite female character on the whole roster to play as. For me, I give Gamora a 9 out of 10. I'm genuinely surprised at how much I love playing as her. She ends up becoming one of my default characters. That's how much I enjoy her. And also, I think she has one of the better voice actors as well. Then we go another, I think, character that was kind of a surprise to me, gameplay-wise.
Winter Soldier.
Ready for my assignment.
I was not expecting this, but Winter Soldier easily became one of my top 5 favorite Marvel characters in the game. For me, I give Winter Soldier, I ended up liking him a bit more than Chris Redfield. For me, I give Winter Soldier an 8.5 out of 10. Now, on a bit more higher scale, let's look at the last couple. Arguably the best of all the DLC characters in the game.
Venom.
We'll crush anyone who gets in our way.
I still think the voice sounds a bit like Carnage more than Venom, but I do appreciate, I love this design of the Venom skin. It is amazing looking, and I absolutely love the fact they gave his alternate being anti-Venom, which I appreciate that very much as a long fan of Venom. But with that said, honestly, I genuinely am stunned at how fun Venom was in the game. Honestly, Venom ended up tying Gamora for how much I enjoyed him. I give Venom a 9 out of 10, just like Gamora. So basically in the game, there's only 2 characters I like more than Gamora or Venom. Of course, on the Capcom side of things, it was Sigma. On the Marvel side of things,
Thanos.
No one is my equal.
yes. At the end of the day, Thanos became my favorite. Arguably my favorite character in the game. How much enjoyment I love Thanos. I give Thanos a perfect 10 out of 10. That's how much I love the character. He's been my favorite character in the game to play as for, well, probably 3 years. He's pretty much been my top favorite character for a long time. And I don't think that ever will change. But with that said, that is rate the character. And that's my opinion, overall rating it from a score of 1 to 10, how much I enjoyed the character's gameplay. Like I said, stay tuned in the future for Rate the Super. First, we'll be looking at Marvel characters, and then part 2, looking at Capcom's side of things. So I'll see you all. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel. Please continue showing love to this game. This game deserves all the love it can get. I'll see you soon enough.